There we go. All right, official welcome to class number 5. We're moving right along, covering a lot of ground, a lot of material, a lot of different areas, all connected with the journey of the soul. And we'll start off with a little story. So we have a smaller crowd tonight, so it's more Hamish, just to get into a good warm spirit. The story of a nice Yidel, we'll call him Jerry. He passes away, and he goes up to heaven, and he's by the pearly gates, and the angels are there to greet him and say, "Oh, Mr. Jerry, we're looking at your life. You lived a great life. You're a beautiful person. You acted beautifully. You were moral. You were ethic. You were a great father, great grandfather, and you're going straight to heaven." He's like, "Wow!" And as expected, he comes to heaven, and there's this lavish table. And he's expecting on this beautiful table, some the foods that the land of Israel is blessed with. There should be milk, there should be honey, some wine, and instead it's an empty table. He's like, "What? Like I worked my whole life to get to heaven for an empty table? Like you couldn't even put anything on. Like what's going on?" And he says to the angel, "I'm a little hungry." The angel says, "Okay, great." The angel comes back carrying 2 trays of Chinese, and he's like, "Chinese? Like I'm Jewish. I like Chinese food, but like this is what I worked my whole life for Chinese. Like, come on." Well, the angel turns to Jerry and says, "Well, listen, today in heaven it's just me and you, so I figured let's just get some takeout." So of course, all of these descriptions of heaven are very far and different than what we spoke about last week. And the reason I shared this is to give a little reminder of what we discussed last week. And we explained what happens after the time of passing, what happens at the time of death to the neshama, where does it go, what happens to it. And we said that it goes to another world, a spiritual world, where it is judged not just by the heavenly court, but also by itself. The soul is able to be open and it's bare, it's open, it's able to feel all of its shortcomings and everything that distracted it during its lifetime here in this world. And when the soul feels that and experiences that, it says, "Oh, we need some cleansing over here," right? There were a few dirty piles of mud that I fell into. We need to clean that off. And the soul has the opportunity to go to Gehenna, which is not these big fiery pits with pitchforks and whatnot, but rather it's a cleansing process, an opportunity to purge itself of any sins or any wrongdoings that happens here in this world, and is then able to go into Gan Eden. And the experience of Gehenna, we said, is not about the big fires. There is, by the way, some Jewish literature which gives those descriptions, but it's not meant to be taken literally. We don't know exactly what it is, but the idea of Gehenna is, number one, it's like a rehab center. It's to get back, allow the soul to get back on its feet and go to Gan Eden. And what happened, and the way that that experience happens is that the experience of Gehenna is the shame and the pain that the soul feels as it experiences and it confronts all of its shortcomings that it had while in this world. And only after confronting its own shortcomings and being able to deal with that, or in the terms of today's mental health world, being able to process its shortcomings and deal with the realities on the ground, from that, the soul is able to grow and focus on the connected points that it has in, which is the experience of Gan Eden, of paradise, of going to heaven, where now that it got rid of all the distractions, it's now able to experience a deep, intimate connection with spirituality, with Hashem, and that is the true happiness that the soul has, being reunited with Hashem and having that close bond and connection. So that's just a recap of what we spoke about last week, the Jewish perspective on heaven and hell. And now we say, all right, that's it. Stop right over there. There's nothing more to it. Right? What else is there? We spoke about the soul. We spoke about 2 weeks ago about the 7-day period, the 30 days, the 12 months, and the soul continues to to travel and to grow and to journey. Now we spoke about heaven and hell. Now the soul's in heaven. It's connected to Hashem. It's enjoying its great spiritual life. Seemingly, that's it. But the truth is, there's a big topic which we haven't yet talked about, and that is the topic of reincarnation. And I mentioned this, I think, at the very first class, that the course authors said that when they originally designed this course, they didn't even put reincarnation in here. Maybe a little bit. I don't know. I didn't see the first version of it. But they had so many questions that came in from participants. What's with reincarnation? What's with it? It was a hot topic. They didn't expect it to be such a hot topic. And they added a whole section about reincarnation because there is a lot of information about reincarnation out there from other religions. And like heaven and hell, we may have some misconceptions of what reincarnation is. We may not believe in it. We may not think it's a Jewish thing, and it may not be a Jewish thing, the ideas that we're thinking of. So we're going to take a look at the Jewish perspective on reincarnation. Does the soul ever experience life here on earth again? Once the soul leaves this world, is that the end of its time here in this world? Does it stay in heaven forever? Or does the soul ever return to this earth ever again? And why is this important? It's not just a philosophical question, but there are real ramifications to this question, because if we're able to know about the story of our neshama, of our soul, where it came from, and learn a little bit about what its purpose here is in this world, it'll help us live a more meaningful life when we get to know ourselves and our neshama, our soul, a little bit better. So we really want to get to know ourselves, because our neshama, our soul, is the real you. It's the real core entity, identity of the person, and we really want to know all about where we are coming from. So before I have a question for everyone, but before I ask you a question, I'm going to tell you 5 different questions that we're going to aim to address tonight in tonight's Zoom. So the first question we're going to address is this our first time on earth? Our neshama, it's in our body. Is it the first time that our soul is here on earth in a body? Why would a soul be reincarnated? Why not stay in heaven? If it is real, if reincarnation is a real concept, and we believe in that, are we able to remember our past lives? And if not, why not? Why can't we tap into the history of our soul? When you go to the car dealership, you get a whole history of the car, right? If reincarnation is real, why can't we get a history of our soul? And if we're reincarnated, does paradise not happen for our soul, right? We said the soul moves on from the body, moves to the next world. It may have to go through Gehenna. Hopefully it's just a short little quick stay. And then it goes to Gan Eden, it goes to heaven. Well, if the soul comes back down to this earth, what happened to heaven? What happened to the reward for the soul's time here in this world? And finally, can a human be reincarnated into a non-human form? So we're going to address all of these and much more tonight. And you may not think in the terms of the word reincarnation, but sometimes we use terms like, oh, in another life, right? In another life, maybe I was this. In another life, maybe I was that. But I want to ask everyone here, kind of feel the temperature in the room. What are your thoughts on reincarnation? Do you like the idea of reincarnation, or is it disturbing to you?
It's disturbing to me. It's hard to believe that you get to heaven and then leave heaven and come back.
Yeah, it's like we finished, we did our journey, we have our unique identity. Let the soul enjoy its time in heaven. I'm with you.
Sometimes I get a feeling like I've been a place that I've never been before and I don't know, it's strange. And yet, sometimes certain young children, you'll say they're an old soul. Have you? that they seem to possess knowledge and I don't know, and things that are beyond their age. So I don't know.
Right. You're saying, in other words, that you've experienced or you've heard of this concept of reincarnation, like it resonates with you because you've seen it play out in different areas. It's kind of like a given, like it just adds up.
I've read books. There was one that was very popular a number of years ago called Many Lives, Many Masters that goes through past lives. And a lot of it, some of it made sense, some of it was questionable. I don't know.
Okay, great. So we're going to take a look at the Jewish perspective tonight.
Good.
I'm holding my peace.
You're holding your peace.
I really don't think reincarnation happens, but I don't know that it matters what I think anyway. We'll see where it goes.
We'll see where it goes. There's no right or wrong answer. We're asking you what your feelings are. We're not asking you what you think Judaism says.
Yeah.
Julie, have you ever thought about it? Has it ever crossed your mind?
I've thought of it, but I kind of agree with Sherry. Like, some people have a lot of knowledge for their age. So I think sometimes that they're the old souls and they've experienced things at a much young age.
So,
Plus-
I always say that women are more intuitive and have more faith and more spiritual. I think we see that right here, right? All the males over here are like reincarnation. I don't know, maybe, and the women are like, yeah, we can relate to the soul, to the neshama. We know what's going on.
Maybe they
I
need
kind of do if I could see some evidence, but how do you see evidence? Because you're not there.
So thank you everyone for sharing. I think everyone will be very surprised to see what the Jewish perspective is. It's unique and different, and perhaps the term or the idea of reincarnation that we may have developed from other cultures, other faiths, have crept in, and we're going to see what the Jewish take on all this is. But before we get started, we have a little pop quiz for everyone. On page 175, we have some questions, seven questions to be precise, and it's a little exercise to do. And we're going to take a look at the end of the class back at these same questions to see how we did and to see what the correct answers to these questions are. So question number 1, belief in reincarnation is basic to Judaism. True or false?
I'm not sure.
I think it's false.
I think it's false.
Okay, question number 2. In the Jewish view, reincarnation means that a soul that inhabited one body returns to inhabit another. Question number 3. A human soul can be reincarnated in a non-human entity, such as an animal or plant.
No, I don't think so.
I think so.
Okay, great. This is like 2 Jews, 3 opinions. It's amazing.
I can't imagine it.
Well, like
Yeah.
I get butterflies all the time. And I think it's my loved ones checking in on me.
Yeah, well, I see the cardinals, but yeah.
So that's why I think that, but I'm not for sure, but it calms me. So
Okay, whatever you think you can put down. Question number 4. A reincarnated soul does not have its own identity, but shares its identity with someone who lived in a previous lifetime. This is a big one. A reincarnated soul doesn't have its own identity, but shares its identity with someone who lived in a previous lifetime.
So that would be with another soul. If wouldn't it?
I think too, it could be like with your ancestors.
Hmm.
So much Narishkeit.
I don't know.
It's a
I don't know. It's kind of a deep one.
You can skip it. It's a little bit of a deeper question. Question number 5. The purpose of doing good in one's current lifetime is to be reincarnated as a person of higher status.
That's in Hinduism.
Yeah.
So you see what we're doing here? We're taking questions. We're trying to see how much of our perspective is a Jewish perspective, and how much of it is being influenced by other religions. And question number
Yeah.
7 is: most souls today are reincarnations. True or false? Okay, so I have some news for some of us over here who don't think that reincarnation is a Jewish topic. And the Jewish belief in reincarnation is that yes, we do believe in reincarnation. So much so that it's printed in the Siddur, and there's a text which is recited every single night before we go to sleep by millions of Jewish people around the world, and it's printed in every single Siddur, in the Ashkenaz, in the Sephardic Siddur, in the Chabad Siddur. This is a universal text. So it's not like, oh, this was from this movement to that movement. This is universally printed. And let's take a look at text number 1. Every night before we go to sleep, we say the Shema, but there are actually some additional prayers and passages that we say in addition to the Shema. It's a very beautiful text, page 176. Master of the universe,
Yes.
I hereby forgive anyone who has angered or vexed me or sinned against me, either physically or financially, against my honor or anything else that is mine, whether accidentally or intentionally, inadvertently or deliberately, by speech or by deed, in this incarnation or in any other.
Okay.
So, first of all, the text itself is that every night before we go to sleep, before we return our neshama, our soul to its maker, the Talmud says death is sleep is 1/60th of death. So before we return our neshama, we want to leave it on a clean slate. So you see how ahead Judaism is of its time. It says before you go to sleep, if you have any anger inside of you, you're upset at someone, you have to let go. You can't return your soul to Hashem for the night and you're clinging on to something, you're holding on to some anger and some intense emotions. You have to forgive and you have to let go. And what are we forgiving? It's right there in the text, in the middle of the text, someone in this world or in a different incarnation, either that something that they did to us, we're forgiving them, or we're asking for forgiveness, something that we did to them. So right over here, we have this idea. Reincarnation is a Jewish concept. We see it right there. It's in the Siddur. It's in the text. And our question for tonight is, what is reincarnation from a Jewish perspective? Why would a soul be reincarnated? What's the purpose of it? There are some scary things about it. So number 1, I think like Larry said, that the soul had its life here in this world. It worked hard. It did its thing. Let the soul continue on its journey. Why does the soul have to come back? But building on that, there's some other scary things about the concept of reincarnation. Who am I, right? What about my unique identity? If my soul was someone else, am I me or am I someone else? Who's the real me? You know, when the Mashiach comes, one of the principal beliefs in Judaism is the belief in the resurrection of the dead. So if you have a neshama, a soul which is reincarnated multiple times, which body is that soul going to come back into? Who is the neshama? Who does it belong to? So, this whole idea and concept of reincarnation raises a lot of questions, and some people can be very uncomfortable with it, and a lot of people can be uncomfortable with it. And the good news is that Yiddishkeit, the Jewish perspective on reincarnation, is radically different than any other religion. So we're going to see a variety of texts, and the sources for all this are in your textbook. And you'll notice, for example, text number 2, we're quoting from Rabbi Chaim Vital. So let me just explain a little bit about the sources. How do we know about all of these concepts? How do we know about heaven and hell? How do we know about where the soul goes after it leaves this world? I mean, unless we had a Gilgul, a reincarnation of a soul that came back and remembered what it went through, how do we have this information? And the short answer, because otherwise it'll be a whole class in and of itself, the short answer is that a regular person like myself is not able to communicate with the neshama, with the soul. We're not able to, know about the soul's journey. But there are very holy people, Kabbalists, which are soul seers, and they have a deeper insight. And this was passed down from Moses to Moshe at Mount Sinai with the oral Torah. And the Rambam Maimonides explains that there are certain concepts which are so deep and so secret, the secrets of the Torah, they should not be taught publicly. They should only be taught individually. So we have this tradition going all the way back to Moses at Mount Sinai, and the Arizal, who is a very famous name, you may be familiar with that name. The Arizal, maybe it was 600 years ago, if I'd have to take something like somewhere around there, 500 years ago, said that because of the darkness of the times that we're in, the exile is so strong that it's a time not only where we can, but we should reveal many of these secrets of the Torah. And that's where Kabbalah is not something new, but it was hidden for many generations, and only about 500 years ago did it start to become revealed. So most of the information that we're going to be discussing tonight comes from the Arizal. Now the Arizal he lived in Israel, in Sefas or Sefer, and he didn't write down his teachings. His teachings were written by his primary student, Rabbi Chaim Vital. And that is where we're going to start. But in order to understand reincarnation, we have to get to know the neshama, the soul, a little bit better. Sorry, 1 second here. Let's just see if that was someone trying to come into the class. Okay. I thought someone was asking for the Zoom link. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're going to get to know our neshama, the history of our soul, and that will help us understand the Jewish view on reincarnation. So let's take a look on page 177, text number 2 from Rabbi Chaim Vital, transcribing what he heard from his teacher, the Arizal. It says something fascinating. It all began with one master soul, the soul of Adam, which included all future souls. Subsequently, this master soul passed on to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and was then divided among the 12 tribes. Afterward, the soul was further partitioned among the 70 souls, the descendants of Jacob that accompanied him to Egypt, and eventually among the 600,000 souls who left Egypt. Rabbi Chaim Vital says that the first person to exist, Adam Harishon, he had a master soul. I don't know what that looks like. The Medrash actually says that Adam was he was a giant. He was a really big person. Maybe it's because he had such a powerful soul. I'm kidding. I don't know if there's any connection. But he had a master soul, and from that soul came all of the souls that were to come into existence. All of humanity, the human race traces back to Adam. So he contained this master soul, and this master soul was slowly divided. And it went, if Bob Silverstein were here, he would have some chemical description for us of I'm trying to think of the right term, but I don't want to put the wrong term out there and mess up the analogy. So Adam has this master soul, and it then gets given over to Abraham, to Yitzchak, to Yaakov. This master soul then split into the 12 tribes, which is then split further into the 70 Jewish people, which went from Israel into the land of Egypt. And from there, it split further into 600,000 different souls. A husband and wife share one soul. So it's 600,000 souls, but they're also divided further because a husband and wife are two halves of one soul. So we use the term 600,000, even though it's split into 1,200,000 people. So this is a little bit of the history of our neshama, of our soul. Think about a tree, right? You plant a seed in the ground, and then the tree eventually starts to grow, and you have the trunk, and then you have the branches, and then you have more branches, and the tree can become quite large, and you have all the rings of the trunk. So you have the master soul, and that master soul can, can continue to create. Hopefully, so that's helpful information so that we can better understand this idea, the Jewish idea and take on reincarnation. Let me pause for any questions.
I have a hard time.
Welcome to Ron, to Yitzchak.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Don, go ahead.
I have a hard time conceptualizing this. Stomaching it.
Oh, from Adam being mincemeat into pieces, soul.
I hear you,
Well, I
Don.
guess we all, in some way,
We
are.
all go back to the first
We all come
person,
from God.
Adam was created, and let me break this down. The main idea that's important to take away from this text is to understand that all souls are connected to each other. That's what we're trying to share. We're all connected to each other. We all come from the same place. A soul is ultimately a part of Hashem, and we're all connected with one another. If you take that, then we're good. We don't have to have a 10 out of 10 batting average.
What about this analogy? You've heard of heirloom seeds, correct?
I'm sorry?
He was the master template as far as soul, or the heirloom seed, and all the souls, I guess.
I had it back. I couldn't hear the first thing you said.
Oh,
Heirloom seed.
Heirloom.
You know how you take an heirloom seed and then you recreate it, that particular brand of fruit. So am I saying he was the master template, or was his soul actually divided among 160,000, or was it templated and it was similar to his?
So that's a good question. I would say, again, I'm not a Kabbalist, but if I had to answer the question, I would venture to say that there's 600,000 template souls, and from there many other souls come, because there's obviously many more.
So basically copy and paste?
I don't know about copy and paste. I think it recreates, right? You can graft a tree and create another tree from that tree.
That is true.
Okay, let's not get caught up in the details. Let's see where we're heading to. Let me share the PowerPoint. Maybe it will be helpful. I thought it would be helpful not to have it. Maybe the slides will be helpful. So we said reincarnation is a Jewish belief. So one of the questions we had is, if the soul is reincarnated, what about the Gan Eden or Gehenna, right? Why can't the soul just continue to live on? What would be the point of it coming back to this world? Isn't it losing out on its experience in the next world? So the first soul came from Adam, which was the master soul. There are many people that existed between Adam and Avraham, but that master soul was passed down directly to Avraham, Yitzchak to Yaakov, then to the 12 tribes of Israel, and then to the 70 souls of Yaakov's family. And we see how the tree is continuing to grow. It's one tree continuing to grow with many different branches. So perhaps Yitzchak, what we're saying is that this one master soul was split between all these different people, and we have 600,000 root souls, which are now spread amongst all the Jewish people living in Egypt. And from there, many more souls were created, and we're going to move right in. We're going to get there in a few moments. But one thing let's just break this down. Idea number one is that all of our souls, there's a root soul, and it all goes back to Adam, to the first person which existed. The next idea we need to discuss is, what is the purpose of the soul being here in this world? So Hashem creates all of these souls. Okay, beautiful, great. We all exist here in this world. What is the purpose of the soul? What does it have to do here in this world? So we have to know, what is the soul's mission, in other words. So
may I ask a question?
Sure.
Trees eventually die. Is that right?
Eventually, yeah.
And when they die, they go back to the earth. Is that correct?
I'll take your word for it.
I don't know. I mean, what happens to the remains of a tree?
I would think it disintegrates.
It disintegrates. That's right. And I guess the question is, once the ephemeral body has disintegrated and the neshama has passed on to Gan Eden or wherever, is it your suggestion here that the tree comes back to life as it is? And while we're on the subject, what about all of those of us who have Kazakh blood, who have Greek or Italian blood? There are a lot of us who are mutts. We don't necessarily all descend from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, do we?
Okay, so I'll try to answer the first question first, which is anytime we use an analogy to try to explain a Jewish concept in Kabbalah, Jewish philosophy, it's never going to add up 100%, right? So we're trying to bring out an idea from the tree, but we can't compare all aspects one to another. But in terms of the tree being recreated, I would say you can graft from one tree, you can create another tree. But in answer to your second question, the Torah tells us that Hashem created the world. On the sixth day of creation, he first created Adam. Adam had a unique experience where he was created with a male and female soul. And Hashem then did a surgery, so to say, and Hashem created Chava, Eve, from Adam. The point of that is not to go back to the story of Bereshis. My point of that is the first person to exist in this world was one person, was Adam. And he had the master soul. And every single person goes back to Adam, to Adam. So everything we're talking about is from Jewish sources. So we're talking about the Jewish experience, but it also applies to non-Jews. So the Jewish texts and sources are talking to a Jewish audience. So we're going to talk about Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but everyone goes back to Adam, the first person. Every person has a soul. So this isn't a unique Jewish concept. This applies to Jews and non-Jews as well.
Because we all have souls.
Correct. We all have souls. If you're Jewish, you have a Jewish soul. If you're not Jewish, you still have a soul. It's just, I hope that helps a little bit.
Plus, we're all from God.
A soul is part of Hashem. Correct. Okay, we have a little bit of an easier topic here, right? Let's move on to something a little bit lighter, a little bit easier, which is the soul's mission. Every neshama, every person has a soul. The soul sent down to this world, and that soul has its unique mission and role in this world. And the problem is that we don't really get to send a text message to our soul. We can't communicate in a clear form or fashion. We can feel an energy, we can feel something, but we can't really get clear instructions from our soul. What exactly is our soul supposed to do? Hashem sent it to this world to do something, and the soul knows what it wants to do, but the soul doesn't communicate that with us, so we may think. Because we don't get an instruction sheet of this is your main purpose here in this world. So everyone shares a general purpose. And we're going to talk about a little bit later what you can do to figure out what your specific soul's purpose and mission in this world is. How can we figure that out if we don't have those clear instructions and directions? So the soul's mission in general, a Jewish soul, has two elements in it, or maybe three elements. So one is to reveal God's presence here in this world. And the way we do that is by living a life of Torah and by living a moral and ethical life, by acting justly and bringing kindness to the world and all the good deeds that we do. That's the general idea, is to reveal God's presence here in this very material world. We have a mission to fulfill all 613 mitzvahs. That's a big calling, right? Right away, you can ask, hey, we can't do all 613. What if you're a Kohen? What if you're not a Kohen? Or you don't live during the times of the Beis HaMikdash? Good questions. We'll get there. And we also have a mission to rectify and elevate both body and soul. And the way we do that is through studying Torah. So our soul has a mission, revealing God's presence here in this world, fulfilling the mitzvos, and studying Torah. That's what a soul is sent down here in this world to do. In a general, that's something which applies to every single soul. Every soul has its unique area of focus and its specific mission that only it can accomplish. And that's why that soul is necessary and must be here in this world. We can't leave the job to somebody else, because your soul and my soul and everyone's soul is brought here into this world to do something that only it can do. So everything we said here about the soul's mission is on general terms. It applies to every soul. But then there's something specific that your soul and only your soul can accomplish here in this world, making your soul very important and mattering very much to this world. So what happens if a soul comes down into this world and it lives a beautiful life and it does its best to reveal God's presence, to do the mitzvahs, to study Torah, make this world a beautiful world, but it doesn't have the chance to do everything it was sent to this world to do? Let's play some numbers over here, right? There are 613 mitzvahs. Let's say a soul came down to this world and only did 500 of the mitzvahs. It was sent on a mission, right? The soul was sent here to do something. It did pretty good, right? 500 mitzvahs is good, but it didn't complete its mission here in this world, right? And the same could be true if it completed 600 of the 613 mitzvahs. So then what happens? What happens to the soul? So let's take a look at text number 3 on page 178. So again, it's from Rabbi Chaim Vital. This is going back to the Kabbalah, where he writes, furthermore, you must know that every person must fulfill all of the 613 mitzvot, and if a soul does not fulfill all 613 mitzvot, in action, speech, and thought, it must be reincarnated until it completes them all. So what happens is, a soul comes to this world, and before you start thinking, hold on, I'm not a Kohen, we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, we don't have this, we don't have that. So a soul comes to this world, and for argument's sake, it does 500 mitzvahs. It goes up to the heavens after 120, and the heavenly court says, you did 500, but you have 113 more you got to do. You got to do that. Before we accept you back up here, you have to go back to the world, and you get a second chance. We're not going to condemn you to hell forever. We're not going to say, you get another chance. Second chance. We're very forgiving and kind and understanding. Come back down into the world, and you get a second chance. But there's something very unique about the Jewish perspective over here. And that is that, I want to find the right text. And that is on text number 6 on page 182. This is a very reassuring and important text of the Jewish view of reincarnation. And Rabbi Chaim Vital says as follows. although we've stated in numerous passages of this treatise that a specific individual soul was reincarnated in a particular person, and it was subsequently reincarnated in another specific individual. So let's pause there. That means that a soul can be reincarnated more than once, and so on. Do not misread this as implying that the original soul itself is reincarnated repeatedly. Rather, each human soul branches out into innumerable roots. Every root contains an infinite quantity of soul sparks. With each subsequent reincarnation, a number of these sparks are rectified and they ascend to enjoy the rewards of heaven and dwell in the particular strata of Gan Eden that are appropriate for them. However, those soul sparks that were not rectified are reincarnated to provide further opportunity for rectification. Okay, so number one, you can breathe. We're not recycled souls. It's not that a soul comes to this world, it doesn't fulfill its mission, so Hashem says, all right, go back down again. That's not exactly what happens. There's a little bit more to it. And hopefully this analogy will be helpful. You can think about a board. Sometimes, I go to the Kohl's Museum with my children, right? And they have these light up boards, and they can click different buttons and they light up, or you have to, they have all sorts of shtick and all sorts of, sensory and stimulating ideas. Okay, it's beautiful, it's great, we love them. But think about this wall filled with 613 bulbs, and you have to hit every one of those 613 bulbs in a certain amount of time, in 120 years. Every mitzvah that you do lights up one of those bulbs. And that is a spark of your soul lighting up inside of you. Your neshama is lighting up, or part of your neshama is lighting up. And going back to our numbers game over here, the soul is here in this world, and it hits 500 of the light bulbs. Good job. Amazing. That's 113 to go. So what happens is the neshama ascends to the next world, and it goes to Gan Eden, it goes to heaven. But a new neshama is created, which now has to go back into this world and light up those 113 bulbs, because the neshama did its job here in this world. It did great. It has its unique identity. It hit 500 of the bulbs on the board. Amazing. It did great. But there's something more. So the roots, like we said in text number 6, each human soul branches out into innumerable roots. So there's soul sparks which create a new soul which come here into this world. So when we talk about reincarnation, we're not talking about the same soul coming back and forth into this world again, and then doesn't hit the spot, doesn't do exactly right, so it gets sent back down again and again and again. That's not exactly what happens. The soul's here in this world, and it goes to the heavens, and it goes to Gan Eden, and it continues on that journey. From that soul can be born another soul, which has to be sent to this world with that specific mission of completing what its parent soul, if you will, did not complete. So when we talk about reincarnation from a Jewish perspective, it's very different than the traditional understanding of the word reincarnation. So I'm going to say it again just because this is so important. When we think about reincarnation, we think about our soul being here in this world, going up to heaven, and the angels, the heavenly court, or Hashem saying, you're not accepted up here, go back down and try again, and again and again and again. We say, no, that's not the case. Rather, the soul is sent down to this world. It does its best. It goes up to the next world where it's judged. If it has to take a little dip in Gehenna, it goes and has its rehab and rectification, and it goes to Gan Eden, and the soul continues in its journey. And how does it rectify for any missing parts of its mission here in this world? Another soul is born from it and is sent back down here into this world. So we use the word reincarnation But really in Hebrew, the word is Gilgal. It's rolling over. You know, like rollover minutes back in the day, you didn't have unlimited cell phone minutes. So the soul is rolling over, creating soul sparks, creating a new soul that comes into this world, and that new soul has to focus not only just in the general mission of making this world a more godly place, but that soul which comes into this world, it has a specific mission of filling in those 113 mitzvos that its parent soul, if you will, didn't complete and didn't do. And that new soul, let's say, comes into this world and it works really hard and it doesn't do all 613 mitzvos, but somehow it did the right ones. It did 113 mitzvos, the right ones. So when that new soul, which is reincarnated, but it's created from the previous soul, goes back to the heavens and says, "Hey, you didn't do all 613 mitzvahs, but you did the right ones. You did the 113 that you have to do, that your mission was to focus on, and now you're not going to have to be reincarnated or create another soul from your soul to be sent back down to this world. Your soul has completed its mission." So let me take a pause over here. I want to make sure that this concept, I want to make sure I'm explaining this clearly, and hopefully this is a little reassuring that yes, Judaism believes in reincarnation, but it's not exactly, I should say, it's very different than how the world translates the word reincarnation. So any questions or any clarifications needed?
Well, again, for women, obviously we don't have to do all 613. Would their bulbs be already lit, the ones that they don't have to do?
That's a very good question, right? No, I like that
What if we
question.
come back as a man? I don't know.
No, that's a very good question. I have to get back to you on that. I haven't thought about that. Because if there's something you're not required, because let's Sherry, let's take that. I don't know the answer to that specific question, right? Because we have a Jewish teaching, that Hashem does not put a person in a situation that they are not able to handle. So every person has their own pekel. We say in Yiddish, we have our own packages, we have our own issues and problems and things that we have to deal with. And sometimes we say it's not fair. Why do I have it so hard and no one else has it as hard as I do? Well, you know what? Hashem said, I know that you can handle this, and they can handle something else. Don't compare, we never compare ourselves to another person. We shouldn't. We do, but we shouldn't. So Hashem doesn't put us in a situation where it's going to be an absolute failure. So it'd be unfair if Hashem sent a soul to this world, said you have to do all 613 mitzvahs, but being a soul of a woman, you're not required to do certain mitzvahs, or you can't do certain mitzvahs. That wouldn't be fair. And Hashem doesn't do things that are unfair. So if I had to guess without looking at any sources, if I had to make it up, I would say it's like already lit, because we spoke about the other week how the souls of women are more refined and they're more connected, and they don't need to do certain mitzvahs like tefillin or tzitzis, because that connection is already there. So if I had to guess without quoting a source from Kabbalah, I would say it should already be lit up, but I may be wrong. I'm not, so I may be, because
I'm putting all my eggs in my basket.
Yeah, I'll tell you why.
I just want to be sure.
I'll tell you why I may be wrong, because only a Kohen can do certain mitzvahs. So if someone is born as a non-Kohen, their soul either already came into this world or will come back into this world in the form of a Kohen, in order that they can do all the 613 mitzvahs. And again, it's not the same soul. There's going to be, right? We have those 613 soul sparks. So you're not going to have the same soul sent back into this world, but a new soul will be created from those soul sparks that need to complete all 613 mitzvahs. So, but that's a good question. I'll have to do some research on that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so now if you thought that this was, crazy, or like, all right, what can I say? This is Jewish view, but like, guess what? It gets even better, right? It only gets better. Let me share the screen for our next section over here. Here's an important concept. I mentioned it in passing. The idea of reincarnation is not a punishment. The idea of reincarnation is an idea of kindness. It allows the soul to complete its mission. Whereas in other faiths, they'll say, oh, you're going to sit in hell and you're going to burn there forever, and your soul's condemned for eternity. Say, okay, the soul didn't complete its mission. We're going to give it another chance, and we'll give it another chance. We're going to let it make it right. We're not going to, let it sit in Gehenna. We said Gehenna has a 12-month expiration. So it's actually an act of kindness where we're allowing the soul to have a second chance and complete its mission. Okay, we're going to skip this. Okay. So now we have two, we're going to break this down a little bit more. Okay. The soul comes into this world, and there are sparks that's in this world of godliness that are hidden all over the place. And it's our job to light those godly sparks here in this world. And every neshama has its mission. So a neshama soul comes into this world, and it rectified different sparks, godly sparks in this world. It revealed godliness in this world. Those are the mitzvos that were properly observed and done. And those sparks that correspond to the neshama, let's say those 500 light bulbs that you lit up, so that part of the neshama is rectified and continues in Gan Eden. But then there's the unrectified sparks, which is positive mitzvos that are not performed. So let's say, for example, a person didn't do anything wrong, but they didn't do all 613 mitzvos. They could have done an act of kindness, but they just didn't do it. They could have done it, there are many examples, right? They could have done something, but they missed that opportunity. And then there's actual violations that they transgressed. Those are really two different things. So how do we deal with these unrectified sparks of the neshama, right? It has those missed opportunities, and there's the Torah violations. So sometimes the soul can go to the next world, and Hashem will say, you know what? You did all the mitzvahs. There were a few mistakes, but you completed your mission in this world. So that's why we have Gehenna to rectify for the Torah violations which were transgressed here in this world. But we have a fascinating concept of reincarnation, which I think will blow your minds away. And if you take a look at text 7a on page 183, we're going to see a whole new idea over here. Does anyone want to read the next two texts, 7a and 7b?
What page?
Page 183.
I'll read.
Okay, take it away.
The concept of giggle reincarnation is that a soul requiring further rectification enters the body of a child as it emerges from its mother's womb to serve as a newborn soul. It has no permission to leave that individual until the person's destined day of death. By contrast, the concept of Iber, soul impregnation, is that the soul enters an adult body that is already inhabited by a soul. The person's primary soul received at birth. In this case, the individual is merely impregnated with a guest soul in addition to harboring a primary soul. The individual then carries the extra soul much as a woman carries a child in her womb. So you have like 2 or 3 souls?
I don't know about 3, but the idea of someone being pregnant, a woman being pregnant, is that you're carrying another life inside of you. So there is an idea of reincarnation where we think of reincarnation as a soul not a recycled soul, but the soul sparks entering a body at the time of birth. But there is this idea that a soul can come down from heaven and latch onto another adult body or another adult soul and hang on with them. And the question is why? Why would that happen? So let's take a look at, Julie, keep reading, please, at 7b.
A soul experiences rebirth for one of two reasons. The impregnated soul comes to an individual for its own sake. In its previous life, it failed to perform a particular mitzvah and was therefore left lacking. This was the kind of mitzvah that was impossible to perform under the conditions of that lifetime, such as a mitzvah of Yibum Katlatza and the like. It is therefore not obligated to engage in a full-scale incarnation described earlier in this treatise, for soul impregnation is sufficient. The impregnated soul comes solely to assist an individual to bring a person additional merit or to guide an individual in matters of Torah and mitzvot. In this case, the impregnated soul lacks nothing for itself. I'm totally confused.
Okay, so thank you for reading, Julie. Let's see if I can help clarify what's going on over here. Oh, whoops. Let's go over here. So partial reincarnation. We generally think of reincarnation as a soul entering the body of a child at the time of birth. But there is a possibility for soul impregnation or partial reincarnation, which means that the soul being sent down to this world doesn't have to live a whole life from the age of a young child through that. The soul doesn't have to go through all of that. It did almost everything it had to. It just needs another little chance. So it's going to attach itself to an adult soul and kind of ride along with them. And there can be two reasons why this can happen. It can be for the sake of the guest soul. So, for example, let's go to the Kohen. A person was born into this world, and it couldn't do all 613 mitzvahs because it wasn't born as a Kohen. Or there are certain mitzvahs that you can only do under certain specific situations. We mentioned, I don't want to get into the details, chalitza, etc. So the soul didn't do anything wrong. It did all the mitzvahs it can possibly do, but it needs a little boost. So Hashem says, you know what? You don't need to come back into this world for a whole lifetime. You can go attach yourself to this particular soul over there, and you can ride along with it and get the benefit of the mitzvah that soul is doing. And that's one reason why a soul may latch onto another adult soul. Or it can be that a lofty soul is coming down to help the host soul, meaning you can have an adult that's just doing great. They need a little boost. They need a little help. And one of the ways they're going to receive this help is Hashem's going to send them a very lofty soul from above to go walk with them and help them. So these are things which we can't know exactly. We're not soul seers. We're not Kabbalists. But we know this information from the Kabbalists, and we're going to talk about how is any of this relevant to us in a few moments. We're going to get there. And something we didn't mention is how many times can a soul come down into this world? How many times can it reincarnate? Meaning, we did mention in text number 6 that a soul can create it can branch out into innumerable roots. So it seems like we can do this again and again and again and again. And that is true. But there is a concept in Kabbalah where we don't give the soul infinite amounts of chances to rectify what needs to be rectified and seeing no improvement. So let's take a look at text number 8 on page 185. When a human soul comes to the world and becomes soiled by sin in the process, it reincarnates in another body to rectify itself. Okay, we already explained what that means. It's not that the soul is being recycled. It's that the part of the soul that needs to come back down to this world branches off, creates a new soul, and it comes into a new body. That second life is its first reincarnation, right? The first time a soul comes into this world, it's not a reincarnation. The second time it comes into this world is its first reincarnation. If it fails to rectify itself during that lifetime, it may return in a second reincarnation. If it again fails to find rectification, it may endure a third reincarnation. After that, however, it is no longer provided opportunities for rectification via reincarnation. And the caveat over here is that it made zero improvement. Hashem sent this soul back 3 times into this world. It's a total of 4 times. And each time it came back into this world in order to rectify its previous mistakes or to do more mitzvahs that it hadn't had a chance to do, and it made zero progress. It did the same thing again and again. They say, the first time, second time, all right, but the third time you do the same thing and expect different results, it's a sign of insanity. So after all these times of coming back into this world, there is a punishment for the soul, and this punishment is an opportunity for the soul to, it's not for the sake of punishment, it's for the sake of rehabilitation and for cleansing, very similar to Gehenna, and that is that the soul, believe it or not, can come back into this world in a non-human form. They say that Yankel, I'm looking at this beautiful picture up here on the screen, it reminds me of Yankel and his friend Moshe. They made a pact that whoever would leave this world first would come back to this world and tell their friend about what it's like in the heavens, in the next world. And the day comes, Yankel passes away first, and Moshe's waiting. He's going to have a dream, and his friend Yankel, they made a deal. Yankel's going to come back and tell him what's going on in the other world. And sure enough, a week later, Yankel comes back in a dream. He says, Moshe, life is wonderful. I eat when I want. I sleep when I want. The sun is shining brightly. I'm surrounded by green grass and pastures. I don't have a worry in the world. Moshe says, this sounds wonderful. I can't wait to join you in heaven one day. And Yankel says, who said anything about heaven? I've been reincarnated as a cow in Montana. Just to give a little bit of a lighter note to this heavy subject over here. So is this common? I can't tell you if it's common, but think about a soul coming into this world so many times and making zero progress. I don't think that's something which happens all the time. I think it's more rare than common.
That's definitely my dog Louie.
Your dog Louie. The general rule today is that all of our souls are reincarnations of other souls. And again, it doesn't mean that we're a recycled soul. It means that we are a new soul branched off of a soul which was previously here in this world. And our job is not just to do all the mitzvahs, but we have a specific job that we have to do. And the question is, how do we figure that out, right? Because we said that all this is relevant to us. Well, why is all this information relevant? Why is this important to us? Because we each have our very specific and unique mission here in this world. Okay, tell me more, right? How do we find out what that is? So let's look in text number 10. The Ramak, this is a quote from a different Kabbalist by the name of Moshe Cordovero. The Ramak, he lived in the 1500s, and he writes as follows. It is impossible to deduce or intuit whether one possesses a reincarnated soul or not, unless one is the recipient of a mystical communication in this regard. You may wonder, how then will we know the purpose for which we entered this world, which mitzvah we must scrupulously perform, or which transgression we must especially avoid? The answers are naturally ingrained in us. We experience natural affinity and longing to perform a certain mitzvah when that mitzvah is critical to our present incarnation. Or our inclination strives especially hard to entice us to commit a particular sin, for it is the very same sin in which we blundered during our previous lifetime. So there are other sources which say that today the common understanding is that almost all of our souls are reincarnated souls. But I'm not arguing with the Moshe Cordovero. I'm telling you what it says in other sources about our souls. But what he is writing over here is that we need to think about our strengths and passions and our weaknesses and struggles and our life circumstances, and try to understand from our unique situation, try to pinpoint what our mission here in this world is. So if someone is very passionate about a certain project, well, you know what? And someone else on the block couldn't care less about that. Maybe that's a sign that this is your mission and this is your calling. The fact that you care about it can be telling that this is important for your unique experience here in this world. And for someone else, they have their own passions and strengths. And I don't just mean baseball versus or basketball or football. I mean good projects and good deeds. Nothing wrong with baseball or basketball or any sports, but talking about you're passionate to do something good. You want to, whatever it may be, maybe that's your mission in this world. And we're not judging someone else. We're not coming on board with you because they have their own mission. And let's say you struggle with something. You say, this mitzvah, no, that one's not for me. The other mitzvah I'll do, right? But this mitzvah doesn't talk to me. Well, guess what? If you feel that this is difficult for you, that can be a sign that is your mission in this world. The evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, who's so smart, he's going to do everything he can to pull you down and try to make you not do what you're supposed to do here in this world. So if you feel like, oh my goodness, I really don't want to do this, I'm totally, or this is a sin that this sin is okay for me, right? We all have excuses in our minds to say, this is okay, this is not, or what, I'm not going to do the Yetzer Hara's job right now, right? We all have our different areas to say, this is no big deal, or this one, it's off the table, let's not talk, I'll focus on something else. Well, you know what? The harder it is for you to do something, that can be a sign that that's exactly what your soul was sent into this world to do. And that's why it's so hard for you to do that, because the Yetzer Hara is attacking you exactly where in the most important place. And here's a fascinating letter of the Rebbe in text number 11, page 188, emphasizing this idea to a person which was struggling with shalom bayit, who's struggling with peace in the home. There's some conflict and friction in his marriage. And look what the Rebbe wrote to him. I am replying to your letter in which you inform me that you accepted and are implementing my directives regarding Torah study classes and giving charity. But as far as the situation at home is concerned, your marital harmony appears only superficially to have improved, while the underlying reality remains unsatisfactory. I already told you in my previous letters that it will be challenging. You are meant to find it difficult, for the success of your life's mission hinges upon your sincere efforts towards marital harmony. Our mystical teachings reveal that rare individuals are born with original souls. The rest of us are reincarnations. We return to complete the fulfillment of the mitzvot that we missed in the previous lifetimes. Certainly, we are obligated in all of the mitzvot in every lifetime, but the specific mitzvot we omitted in earlier incarnations are critical to the rectification of our souls and the rectification of this world. Using the evil inclination as a guide, we can identify the mitzvot that determine the outcome of our life's mission. Excuse me. Our inclination opposes the mitzvot that we finalized in previous lifetimes, but only to the degree necessary to create free choice between good and evil. By contrast, it unleashes a fierce storm of opposition with countless hurdles and challenges when we approach a mitzvah that we failed to fulfill in previous incarnations. Therefore, your many hurdles to marital harmony reveal its indispensability to your rectification. Do whatever it takes to achieve harmony. Wow, the Rebbe was telling this person, you have a problem with marital harmony? Don't run away from it. The fact that it's so hard for you is because this is your mission here in this world. The rectification of your soul is dependent upon you fixing this issue in your life. And how can we figure out some ideas to help us? So, like we have up here on the screen, our strengths and passions, our weaknesses and struggles. If we struggle with something, we don't run away from it, but we should actually focus on that and work really, really hard to rectify that and to overcome that specific challenge. So what I'd like to do now is circle back to our original questions, which we had on page 175, and see what the answer is from the Jewish perspective to all of these questions that we had. So our first question was, belief in reincarnation is basic to Judaism. It was really a trick question. It wasn't fair. The statement is false because of the word basic. It's not the essence of Judaism, right? There are 13 principles of faith. This isn't it's not like the most basic and most important idea in Judaism. It's universally accepted as a Jewish belief, but it's not the basis of Judaism.
So that was false.
So that was false. But it could have been true, right? If you take out the word basic, it could have been true. Okay, in the Jewish view, reincarnation means that a soul that inhabited one's body returns to inhabit another. So the truth is, both are correct. It could be true and it could be false, because part of the soul now returns after it's been spun off into a new soul to inhabit another body. So this wasn't a fair question either. So whether you answered true or false, both of them can be correct. Meaning, a soul that inhabited a body returns to another soul. Yes and no, right? Part of the soul creates a new soul. Part of the soul that was in one body in this world creates a new soul. It spins off to create a new soul and comes back down to another body, but it's not the whole soul coming back. So it's a little iffy over there. Okay, question number 3. A human soul can be reincarnated in a non-human entity, such as an animal or plant. We said that this is correct. It can happen. Number 4, a reincarnated soul does not have its own identity, but shares its identity with someone who lived in a previous lifetime. I think we struggled with this question at the beginning of the class, and the answer is it's incorrect. The new spun off spark soul, the new soul that was created, has its own unique identity, and you can say it's related to the previous soul, but they both have their own unique identity. Just like a child and a parent have their own unique identity.
So far, we've got 4 that could be false. Is that correct?
Well, we had 4 that we went through. We said that a human soul can be reincarnated in a non-human entity. So the number 3 we said was correct. So 3 out of 4 were incorrect. Okay, question number 5. We said the purpose of doing good in one's current lifetime is to be reincarnated as a person of higher status in a future reincarnation. That is not at all the Jewish understanding of reincarnation. Number 6, we said a soul is reincarnated as a penalty for sins committed in a prior life. It's not a penalty, but it's a rehabilitation. So it would be incorrect. We have to change that word. It's not a penalty, right? We said that reincarnation is a second chance for the soul. And we said...
So that's false?
So that would be false. And number 7, most souls today are reincarnations. That is correct. So what is the outcome of all of this? So I would say that the reason why any of this or all of this is actually important to each and every one of us, because we live in a world, a very big world, where perhaps the world, the culture, the voices of the world has a message to us that our actions don't really matter. It doesn't really make a difference if we do this or if we do that. And I'm not going to focus on the non-Jewish perspective, but the everything from here is telling us how important we are here in this world and how much we really matter. What we do matters, and that's an empowering thought. It's not a frightening thought, but it's telling us the importance and the weight that our actions carry. So Viktor Frankl, in the man's search for meaning of life, he says that the why and purpose of life is what gets us up in the morning. And all this is telling us that we matter very much. All of our actions matter very much. And this is something we should really think about, contemplate. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, comes and says, what's the big deal if you do A, B, C, or D? Who really cares? Do you think that really matters? What difference does it make? Yes, our actions and everything we do in our life really makes a big difference. And if we can internalize that and really feel that, that can really carry us through hard times, and perhaps through lonely times. That can be a very empowering thought to live with. And God willing, next week for the grand finale, on a lighter topic, a lighter subject perhaps than reincarnation. I don't think you can't get too much deeper than this. We're going to discuss how does everything we spoke about over the past 5 weeks impact my present quality of life? Is there benefit to coming to terms with and contemplating our own mortality? And we're going to talk about the resurrection of the dead. Why is that a fundamental Jewish belief? And that's all going to take place next week for our last class of this season. And looking forward to sharing that experience with everyone here.